can reflect back to being a player with and manager of some of the finest players that have ever been in the game.
Hotspur America. From the United States to N17, this is the original US-based podcast dedicated solely to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
When you're at a club like Tottenham, they expect you to win all the time. Be the best club in the country as far as I'm concerned.
Coming to you each week during the season.
Spurs in full cry here. Lamela! Oh, what a goal! And Christian Eriksen has scored!
I hate Arsenal. I just hate them.
Oh, what a goal! And Cafu has put Tottenham in front! Kane comes to the Emirates, scores for Spurs.
We're the Yids in America.
Carried away, but Dix is there to tap in!
To dare is to do.
Tottenham Hotspur turning on the style. Glory, glory night at White Hart Lane. The Spurs are still marching on.
This is Hotspur America.
Season 4, episode 31 of the Hotspur America podcast. As always, brought to you by the Community Beer Company, the perfect pub pint to share with your mates. Find us on social media, Instagram at Hotspur America Pod, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Spreaker, iTunes, and of course the Apple Store application. Just Google Hotspur America podcast, and you'll find us. Joining us today is the entire panel to celebrate a wonderful North London derby win. Sam, down the pub yesterday. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. I'm good. I'm like everybody, glad yesterday turned out well. Died about 1,000 deaths, and here to chit chat about it. Good to be here.
Yeah, Simon also joining us. How are you?
Hello.
Nice to have you. Vass, how are you?
Yeah, all good. Enjoyed my Saturday, that was for sure.
Yeah, you had the boy down at Wembley and the missus, right?
That's right. Yeah. Great day. We should have spanked them by more, but I'm on a high at the moment, so all good.
A family that supports together stays together.
That's right.
Yes,
I'm still working on that. Tim, also joining us today, full panel. Tim, how are you?
Fan-frickin-tastic.
Enjoyed the match yesterday from the couch with our newest Yvette McKenna. Missed having you down the pub, but it's glad to have you back on the pod. Spurs 1, Arsenal 0, dominating performance, although a bit squeaky bum at times. Sam, what'd you make of that match?
Well, a great result. And as I mentioned last week, I mean, just more than 3 points. And, ending up 3 pretty tough fixtures, Liverpool, Man United, a derby, coming out with, what do we have? 2 wins and a draw. And, I think my only I don't want to pick on yesterday because obviously any result in a North London, any positive result in North London derby is fantastic. Just wish that we would have had a couple, 3 more, made it a little bit easier and not so squeaky bum at the end. But my biggest takeaway is that the worst is behind us fixture-wise. That's the biggest sort of log jam that we've got in the league. We have it behind us. We did it well. We showed well. We answered the call. So there's lots of positives to draw upon, and lots of really interesting snippets and individual performances to talk about, which I'm sure we will. But I'm just very, very relieved. That last few minutes was one of the worst few minutes of my life, as I'm sure it was for countless other people as well.
Yeah, I think somebody called it squeaky bum and someone else called it absolute pucker factor. There was nothing down to the last kick that was going to make you feel easy about this match, it seemed. And Simon, we certainly had our opportunities. Kane hit a ball about as hard as Wanyama hit one at Liverpool, straight at De Gea's head, and there were a couple of others like that. And then he had the glancing header, obviously, that went in, and then the one that went just wide. The opportunities were certainly there to pack on the goals.
You watching too much of that United game. I think De Gea doesn't play for us.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, mate. No, I was before we went on air, I was trying to count all the golden chances. Certainly Kane's volley, and you could see him teeing that up as soon as the cross came in. You knew what he wanted to do, but went straight to check. He also had another glancing header right after he'd scored, which just went wide of the far post. Trippier, Lamela, Dele all had great opportunities to score. So, it could have been 4 or 5-0. And I think, to Sam's point, a couple more goals would have made it just that more satisfying. But in our minds, we know we absolutely battered them second half. First half was, I'd say, a stalemate. Made me a bit nervous for the second half, but the way we came out, Arsenal didn't know what to do. And you're right, squeaky bum time at the end when it's 1-0. Lacazette, when he beat Sanchez and put it past Hughes. Oh, God, here we go. And I my heart was in my mouth on that free kick right at the death with like 15 seconds left of stoppage time. I thought, are you kidding me? But, I think even Vass and Sam probably tweeted out in the afternoon the old Spurs would have crumbled like a cheap suit at that point.
Tim, one of the things that really stood out that a lot of people were talking about down the pub, especially about 60 minutes in, was the wing play. Davis and Trips had massive games, and you combine that with what Dembele was doing in the midfield, it was as if Arsenal never had a shot.
Yeah, I mean, we did really good stretching the pitch wide, stretching out their back line. I think more so than Davis and Trips, I want to highlight Son's performance. For me, he was absolutely brilliant. The work he was doing there on the left side of the pitch, drawing Bellerin out to isolate Mustafi and give space to Harry. He was playing with lots of energy. I think Son had an amazing match, and I'm wondering if just subbing him out was to save him for Juve after he had already played against Newport. But you're right. I mean, the wing play was great. Trips had that shot from really close in. He was getting more into the game than we've seen him do lately. And I just don't know if it was Arsenal being weak in defense or us just being really up for the match. But the wing play was great. We stretched that defense, and it was great to see that.
Yeah, it really was. And Vass, you were there. You were at the stadium, and you get to a much wider perspective, obviously, from your seat than we do on the television. And watching the match and seeing how narrow that we played, and Chairs kind of talked about this, he and I, before the match, that I think that they would play very narrow, both sides would, and make you go around and try to force something inside. Did you notice Dembele having probably one of the best games, if not his best game of the season, from your seat?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny how a few weeks ago most of our fan base and maybe some of us were writing Dembele off as having been finished, but whenever he got a hold of the ball yesterday, it seemed as though everyone relaxed. Even the fans. We're talking about a 1-0 advantage that was a bit squeaky bum or whatever, but whenever Dembele got on the ball, it just calmed everything down, which is phenomenal. But yeah, being there, you do get a different perspective on the game perhaps than you do on the TV. I thought Sonny did play extremely well. I think the only thing that was lacking from Sonny yesterday was an end product. I thought there was a few opportunities that he could have done more and didn't. Dembele was certainly man of the match for me. I thought Davis had an absolute stormer yesterday. I thought he was excellent throughout. And we do play somewhat narrow, and this is what narks me sometimes about pre-game when everyone's going, how are Trippier and Davies going to cope with the pace of their wing play and stuff like that. And we hear it before games against Man United, and we hear it before games against Liverpool and whoever. But, teams don't play without and out wingers anymore, and the game does get condensed, and players do move inside and they interchange and everything else. And it's not like the old days where we had outside rights, outside lefts playing against competing fullbacks. The game's evolved since then. So a lot of this narrative and everything else pre-game is just nonsense. You've got to trust Pochettino. You've got to trust that he's going to pick the right team. Not saying he's going to get it right every time, but yes, Newcastle just scored. Okay. So sorry.
Yes. I didn't want to interrupt you, Vass. I do it.
Sorry, you might have to edit that out, Ken.
Matt Ritchie, lovely.
Yeah. So it was a great game. I think the first half they sort of set up almost West Brom-like, to be honest. They were sat deep. They had an extra man in midfield, just trying to stifle us and catch us on the break. But once we got out after half time, it was just a different game. We just took control, really. Just wish we'd scored an extra couple of goals.
As I think about like the away leg, right? Generally speaking, surprised we were that they were well up for it, and our midfield really wasn't very tough in that. I kind of felt like this one, it was completely reversed. Ironically, they played, they're Egyptian, so I think they sort of understood how important it was to win the midfield. And I think that's what made Dembele's performance, I think, all the special. I never really felt like, and it's always been a little bit of my gripe with him over the years, he doesn't do much when he has the ball, right, in terms of creativity moving forward. But he was absolutely the boss there, and he was equal opportunity boss. He bossed Wilshere, he bossed El Neni, he bossed them all. And he just simply couldn't have been taken off the ball. And in a fixture like that, it's just vital to I mean, if you're able to control that, and you're able to have that kind of confidence to get possession and keep possession, it really changes everything, and it really did yesterday, I thought.
And Tim, it begs a good question. I put questions out earlier for the podcast, and Ben Foreman asked, we're never going to find a like for Dembele, at least anytime soon. Do we ride this horse until the wheels fall off? And his contract has a year left on it going into this summer. Is he someone that you reinvest in and do ride that horse until the wheels fall off, or do you maybe try to sell and capitalize before making another contract offer?
Yes, I think you just keep riding that out. I mean, look, you sell him, you're going to get some money for it, but I don't think that's really going to give us what we get from him on the pitch, the type of player he is. Like you said, you're not going to find a like-for-like player. You're not going to be able to go out and buy a player like Dembele regardless of however much money you get, because his playing style, his power, his control on the ball, nobody can knock him off when he's at the top of his game. So it doesn't matter how much you sell him for. You're not going to be able to replace that. And we saw yesterday and against United, it's vital to our success when we control the game like that in the midfield. So I'm saying as long as he's playing at this level, extend him another year after that. Just keep extending it and see it out until he retires. I mean,
a good analogy for him, Tim, would be like a Mickey Carrick. Like, he's worth more to you to stay for the odd, sort of key appearances that he can make, right? Like, he's worth more to you as a figurehead, a leader, just somebody that you want to have around, and then somebody who can come in and do a job from time to time.
Simon,
Simon,
does
exactly.
He remind, go ahead.
I was just going to say, every time you hear the players talk about training performances, who's the best player, everyone's always talking about Dembele. So I think that mentality he brings around the squad, I mean, it sounds like he trains hard if everyone's always talking about him on the training pitch. So that type of inspiration for our young squad moving forward, players that are going to be coming up through the youth academy, like Sam was saying, it's more valuable to have him than any transfer fee we're going to get for him.
Yeah, that's not to say that we're not supposed to go look for a player to replace him, but I think he's worth far more to us, remaining in our squad and in our organization than not.
Yeah, definitely need to start looking for a successor. That type of player to replace what he does on the pitch, I don't think that's out there.
Yeah, I mean, from a work ethic standpoint, maybe Winks has that, but he certainly doesn't have the body, not yet.
Well, Wanyama's the opposite. He has the body and maybe doesn't have the. I think Wanyama can do a job, not as well as.
So are you saying that? Are you saying if Winks and Wanyama had a baby, it's Moussa Dembele?
There you go. That's
pretty much. Hey, Cherish, does Moussa remind you of any kind of a player that we've had maybe in our recent history that fans could attach to that say, you know what, yes, he's aging a little bit, but we want to keep him around, and the club did, and it worked out for the benefit of the club, that even if he only played half the matches during that year?
No one comes to mind from certainly the more modern era, the Premier League era. I'm sure back 70s era, there might have been someone in that vein. Graham Roberts could have been that guy if he'd stayed around, but David Pleat shipped him off. Yep. Michael Carrick we've already made that comparison, would certainly have been that guy had he stayed around, and just what he's doing with United. And, Dembele has a different build from a lot of those guys. He's stocky, and we all know how he keeps the ball at his feet. But, he's 31 this summer.
31 this summer.
Right. So that's obviously, and I think that's, Tim, you were talking about the annual contracts, but that's probably how we're going to have to go with this, because is there another like-for-like player out there right now that we can bring in? I don't know if there is.
Raises another.
And you also got to
well.
think.
Sorry.